For decades you have been sold a beautifully packaged lie. You've been told to study hard, get a secure job, save 10% of your paycheck, invest in a mutual fund, skip your morning coffee, and maybe, just maybe, when you are 65 years old and too fragile to enjoy life, you will be a millionaire in a wheelchair. This is what the system calls the slow lane. It is the ultimate trap designed to keep the masses in a state of polite, voluntary financial slavery. In this masterclass, we are not selling hope. We are not teaching you how to save a few dollars for a false sense of security. We are here to execute the reverse engineering of wealth. We are going to dissect the minds of self-made millionaires to understand exactly how they shattered the equation of trading time for money. This rigorous protocol is built upon two of the most powerful blueprints in financial and behavioral engineering. The Millionaire Fastlane by M.J. DeMarco, the ultimate manifesto that destroys the myth of get rich slow, and outlines the mathematics of accelerated wealth. Atomic Habits by James Clear, which we will use not to build simple daily routines, but to program rigid, neural systems that transform you from a passive consumer into a sovereign producer. Prepare your mind. We are stepping into the absolute zero zone of wealth creation. 1. The Great Deception, dismantling the equation of slavery. Why do 99% of hardworking, highly intelligent people fail to achieve financial sovereignty? The answer lies in mathematics, not effort. The vast majority of society operates on an equation that is mathematically doomed from the start. Wealth equals hourly rate times hours worked, plus investment yield times time. If your financial life is built on this equation, you are in critical danger. Why? Because the core variable here, time, is strictly capped. You only have 24 hours in a day. You cannot physically work more than 16 hours no matter your willpower. And because your time is limited, your wealth will always be limited regardless of how prestigious your job title is. The tragic reality is that the educational system was engineered to make you a perfect cog in this exact equation. They teach you how to be an elite employee, a brilliant engineer, or a skilled surgeon, but they intentionally omit the architecture of severing your income from your physical time. M.J. DeMarco calls this the slow lane. It is a strategy entirely dependent on hope. Hope the market doesn't crash, hope inflation doesn't eat your savings, and hope you live long enough to retire. The sovereign learner does not build an empire on hope. They build it on absolute control. 2. The cognitive shift, from consumer to sovereign producer. This is where we inject the behavioral genius of James Clear's Atomic Habits. The fundamental issue is not your bank account. It is your financial identity. Society is conditioned to view the world through the lens of consumption. How do I spend? What do I buy? The 1% view the exact same world through the lens of production. How do I build? What system can I create to extract value? To escape the slow lane, you must initiate a violent shock to your identity. You must flip the script. The consumer sees a viral new product and thinks, how can I save enough money to buy this? The sovereign producer sees the same product and thinks, how did they market this? What is their profit margin? How does their supply chain operate? Can I engineer a superior system to solve this existing market demand? This micro shift in your daily thought process, an atomic habit of the mind, is step 1. Wealth is not a goal you chase. Wealth is a byproduct of the production systems you deploy. You do not chase money, you engineer value, and money follows as a mandatory mathematical consequence. 3. The automation of wealth, severing the chains of time. How exactly do you sever your time from your income? The answer is a single word: systems. Imagine wealth generation as a massive industrial factory. The poor and the middle class are standing directly on the assembly line. They are turning the wrenches and pulling the levers with their own hands. The moment they get sick, tired, or go to sleep, the production and the income stops completely. The sovereign mind does not work on the assembly line. They stand in the control room. They are the architects who write the control logic, much like programming a PLC in an automated plant. They build a system that tells the machines exactly what to do 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with zero continuous human intervention. This is the money tree M.J. DeMarco talks about. Your system might be a software application, a digital content distribution network, a logistical supply chain, or a company run purely on strict standard operating procedures, SOPs. The format doesn't matter. What matters is that the system possesses independent life. It sells, executes, and scales while you sleep. Wealth does not come from working harder at your job, it comes from engineering a rigid structure that works without your physical presence. The law of effect ion, the mathematics of the elite. If we have destroyed the equation of slavery, what is the equation of sovereignty? DeMarco provides the true mathematical formula of the fast lane. Wealth equals net profit per unit times scale/magnitude. Net profit per unit, magnitude. This could be a tiny margin on a $1 digital product, or a massive margin on a $10,000 elite consulting package. Scale, this is the ultimate multiplier. How many human beings can your system reach and impact? If you open a local coffee shop, your scale is geographically locked to your neighborhood. You cannot serve 1 million people. But if you engineer a software tool that solves inventory management for coffee shops globally, your scale is infinite. If you want millions, you must serve millions. This is the uncompromising law of effect ion. 5. The execution engine, weaponizing atomic habits. Vision without execution is just intellectual entertainment. Many people dream of building systems, but they are paralyzed by procrastination and overwhelming complexity. This is where we weaponize James Clear's strategies to force execution. The secret is not attempting to build a multi-million-dollar empire on day one. It is establishing daily microsystems that do not rely on your fragile human motivation. Do not set the goal, I want to build $1 million company. That triggers the amygdala's fear response. Set the sovereign habit. I will spend exactly 60 minutes every morning writing code, building my sales funnel, or analyzing market data, before I allow myself to start my day job. These 60 minutes are your atomic sovereign habit. The human brain criminally underestimates the power of compounding. A 1% improvement in your system daily makes it 37 times more powerful by the end of the year. The architects of the fast lane are not superheroes. They are simply disciplined engineers who built rigid habits that force them to add one new component to their financial machine every single day. Part 2 of 10. The architecture of the engine, dismantling security and the C.E.N.T.S protocol. 1. The addiction to the safe paycheck, escaping the matrix of control. Before we build, we must completely destroy the final illusion. Job security. Society programs you to believe that a corporate salary is safe, and entrepreneurship is risky. The sovereign mind recognizes that this is a mathematical inversion of the truth. When you are an employee, you suffer from what M.J. DeMarco defines as uncontrollable limited leverage (ULL). You have absolutely zero control over your income source. A CEO you have never met can sign a document, and your safe income drops to zero in a single second. An algorithm update, a market shift, or a global crisis can instantly evaporate your livelihood. A paycheck is not security, it is a highly addictive narcotic that numbs you to the reality that you are standing on a financial trapdoor controlled by someone else. True risk is outsourcing your financial survival to an entity that views you as an expendable line item on a spreadsheet. The sovereign producer does not seek the illusion of safety, they demand the reality of absolute control. 2. The C.E.N.T.S framework, the DNA of a sovereign business. How do you know if the business or system you are building is a true fast lane vehicle, or just another disguised low-paying job? DeMarco provides the ultimate litmus test, the C.E.N.T.S commandments. If your system violates these laws, it is mathematically incapable of generating elite wealth. See, the commandment of control. To be sovereign, you must own the infrastructure. If your entire business model relies on a third-party algorithm, like depending solely on a YouTube algorithm, a dropshipping platform, or an Amazon seller account, you are a tenant, not an owner. If they change their rules, your business dies. The sovereign move: you can use these platforms to drive traffic, but you must ultimately funnel that attention into an asset you own absolutely, your own email list, your own software platform, your own proprietary system. You must hold the keys to the kingdom. The commandment of entry as a general rule. If anyone can start your exact business in a weekend by watching a free tutorial, it is a garbage business. Low barriers to entry mean infinite competition, which drives profit margins down to zero. The atomic habit integration. This is where James Clear's philosophy becomes your ultimate weapon. High barriers to entry require complex skills, coding, advanced persuasive copywriting, deep market analysis. The masses will not learn these skills because they lack systems. By using atomic habits to practice a difficult, high-value skill for 60 minutes every day, you build a moat, around your business. Your discipline becomes the barrier that keeps the lazy majority out. 3. The commandment of need, the death of follow your passion. One of the most toxic pieces of advice given to the modern worker is, do what you love and the money will follow. The harsh reality, the market does not care about your passion. The market does not care that you love painting or playing video games. The market is entirely selfish, it only cares about its own problems. The sovereign shift, stop asking, what do I want to do? Start asking, where is the pain in the market? Wealth is a direct reflection of the perceived value you provide. You must build systems that solve problems, save time, eliminate friction, or fulfill a deep psychological desire for the masses. When you solve a massive problem, your passion will become the freedom and sovereignty that the resulting wealth provides. 4. The commandment of time, the severing of the chain. We return to the core thesis of the Fastlane. A sovereign business must eventually be decoupled from your physical time. Ask yourself this critical question. If I get locked in a room without internet for 6 months, will my income drop to zero, or will my system continue to process transactions? If your income stops, you do not own a business, you own a job. You must engineer your system with automation, software, or strict standard operating procedures, SOPs, executed by others. The goal is to build a machine where your only job is maintenance and optimization, not daily operation. 5. The commandment of scale, the multiplier effect. We established the law of effect-ion in part 1. Your system must be scalable. A local barber violates the commandment of scale. They can only cut one head of hair every 30 minutes, limited by the population of their street. A developer who writes a software plugin for barbershops to automate their bookings globally obeys the commandment of scale. The code is written once, but it can be duplicated and sold 1,000,000 times with zero extra effort. The Sovereign Protocol, you must always design your system to impact the maximum number of humans possible. The larger the habitat of your solution, the greater the velocity of your wealth. The Execution Protocol, building the first block. Do not let the scale of C.E.N.T.S paralyze you. James Clear reminds us that standardizing a system comes before optimizing it. Your daily directive. Do not try to build a global software company today. Instead, apply the habit of systematic market observation. Spend 15 minutes a day looking at the frustrations people complain about online. Look at inefficient businesses in your industry. You are training your reticular activating system, RAS, to spot needs and frictions that violate the C.E.N.T.S commandments. You are learning to see the matrix of wealth. Part 3 of 10, The Alchemy of Scale, Productizing Your Service and Escaping the High-Paid Trap. 1. The Golden Cage, the illusion of the high-income freelancer. There is a dangerous sublevel within the Slowlane that masquerades as freedom, the high-income freelancer or the elite consultant. You quit your corporate job, you set your own hours, and you charge $200 an hour. Society applauds you as a successful entrepreneur. The sovereign learner sees the fatal flaw. You have not escaped the equation of slavery, you have simply renegotiated your hourly rate. As M.J. DeMarco critically analyzes in the Millionaire Fastlane, a high-paying service job is still fundamentally a job. Your intrinsic value is still tethered to the clock. If you take a month off to travel, your income drops to zero. If you get sick, your business stalls. You are the bottleneck of your own empire. You suffer from a lack of passivity. To achieve absolute financial sovereignty, you must eradicate the dependency on your physical presence. You must execute the alchemy of turning a service into a highly scalable product. 2. The art of productization, extracting the machine from the man. How do you transition from selling your time to selling a sovereign asset? The answer is productization. Productizing a service means packaging your specific expertise, your unique process, and your intellectual property into a standardized unit that can be sold infinite times without your direct involvement. The service model. A fitness coach spends 10 hours a week training 10 different clients. Unscalable. High friction. The productized model. The coach documents their exact protocol, records a comprehensive 12-week video masterclass, and sells it online. Infinite scale. Zero friction. You must look at your current skill set, whether you are a programmer, a copywriter, a lawyer, or an engineer, and ask, what is the repetitive framework I use for every client? How can I codify this framework into a software tool, a template, a digital course, or a strict standard operating procedure, SOP, that an automated system or a cheaper team can execute. You are no longer selling your effort, you are selling the result of your engineered system. 3. Permissionless leverage, code and media. In the modern digital economy, the fast lane is paved with what naval architects of wealth call permissionless leverage. Historically, to scale a business, you needed permission. You needed a bank to lend you money, or you needed labor people to work for you. Both are high friction and complex to manage. Today, the sovereign producer relies on the two ultimate forms of leverage: code and media. Code, software, algorithms, and bots. They work 24/7, they do not ask for a raise, and they never sleep. Media, YouTube videos, podcasts, newsletters, and digital books. You record it once, and it serves as a relentless sales army working on your behalf across the globe. Integrating this with DeMarco's commandment of scale, code and media have a marginal cost of replication that is effectively zero. It costs you nothing to send a digital product to 10,000 people compared to sending it to one. This is the exact mathematical environment where millionaires are minted. 4. The architect identity, reprogramming your work habits. The transition from doer to architect is psychologically violent. This is where we deploy James Clear's atomic habits. The reason most freelancers fail to productize is that they are addicted to the immediate gratification of doing the work themselves. You must establish a new identity habit. Asterisk the micro habit of documentation. Every time you perform a task for a client, you must rigorously document how you did it. Spend 10 extra minutes writing down the step-by-step process. Over months, these atomic actions compound into a comprehensive operations manual. This manual is the blueprint of your mind. Once your mind is on paper, it can be handed to a junior employee or programmed into a software script. You are training your brain to stop saying, "I need to do this task," and start saying, "I need to build a system that does this task." You are migrating from the assembly line to the control room. 5. The sovereign pricing paradigm, value versus time. Once your service is productized, your pricing model must undergo a radical transformation. The Slowlane worker prices their service based on the hours it took to complete it. The sovereign producer prices their asset based on the value of the transformation it provides. If your automated software saves a company $100,000 a year in lost revenue, the company does not care if it took you 3 years or 3 hours to write the code. They are paying for the result. By decoupling your price from your time, you tap into the magnitude variable of DeMarco's wealth equation. You charge for the pain you remove, not the hours you sacrifice. Part 4 of 10, The Attention Economy, Engineering Magnetic Visibility and Sovereign Influence. 1. The myth of the hidden genius. There is a romantic, yet financially fatal, myth that plagues brilliant minds: if I build a superior product, the world will automatically find it. The sovereign learner knows this is an absolute delusion. In the hyper-connected noise of the modern world, the best product does not win. The best-known product wins. You have built your C.E.N.T.S compliant system. You have productized your service. But without oxygen, the engine cannot ignite. In the Fastlane ecosystem mapped out by M.J. DeMarco, that oxygen is attention. You cannot fulfill the commandment of scale if nobody knows you exist. Marketing is not begging for money, it is the calculated engineering of visibility. If you cannot capture and retain human attention, your system is effectively invisible, and your wealth equation multiplies by 0. 2. Sovereign positioning, the category of one. The Slowlane worker competes. They look at the market, see what others are charging, and try to be slightly cheaper or slightly faster. This is a race to the bottom, a suicidal strategy where profit margins are ground into dust. The sovereign producer does not compete, they isolate. You must construct a category of one. This requires ruthless positioning. You do not sell fitness coaching, you sell neurological high-performance protocols for corporate executives. You do not sell web design, you sell automated client acquisition funnels for private clinics. By hyper-specializing and solving a highly specific, painful problem, you render yourself incomparable. When you cannot be compared, your pricing power becomes absolute. You dictate the terms because you are the only sovereign entity operating in that specific airspace. 3. The weaponization of free value. How do you capture elite attention in a world full of cheap distractions? You use the strategy of asymmetric generosity. Many amateurs are terrified of sharing their secrets. They hide their best information behind paywalls, fearing someone will steal it. The sovereign mind does the exact opposite. You weaponize free value. You give away the what and the why for free, and you sell the how, the implementation, the software, the personalized system. When you release high-resolution, life-changing content into the market without asking for a transaction, you trigger the psychological law of reciprocity. You establish unquestionable authority. When the time comes for the market to execute, they will not go to the cheapest provider, they will go to the architect who already solved their problem in theory. 4. The atomic habit of publishing, the media engine. This is where James Clear's behavioral engineering becomes your marketing department. You cannot rely on a single viral video or a one-time advertising campaign. Attention must be sustained. The crisis of the creator. Most people fail at marketing because they rely on bursts of motivation. They post intensely for a week, get no results, and quit for a month. The sovereign solution: you must build an atomic publishing habit. It is not about brilliance every day, it is about absolute, relentless consistency. Determine a micro-action that is impossible to fail. I will write one high-value post or record one 60-second video every single day before I drink my coffee. This is how you build a media empire. You are not waiting for inspiration. You are treating content creation as a strict industrial process. Over months and years, this compounded output creates an inescapable web of digital real estate that permanently funnels traffic toward your system. 5. Capturing the asset, the sovereign vault. Generating attention on rented platforms, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, is only half the battle. Remember DeMarco's commandment of control. If your entire audience lives on a platform you do not own, you are building your castle on borrowed land. An algorithm change can wipe out your traffic overnight. The ultimate objective of engineering attention is to migrate that attention into your sovereign vault, an asset you own entirely. In the digital age, this is your email list, your private community, or your proprietary database. Every piece of media you deploy must have a strategic directive: to move the viewer from a rented platform into your owned ecosystem. Once they are in your vault, you own the distribution. You can reach your market instantly with zero advertising costs, at any moment you choose. This is the ultimate leverage. Part 5 of 10, Capital Allocation and the Sovereign Treasury, Managing Wealth Like an Elite Fund. 1. The Income Illusion versus Absolute Wealth. A fatal psychological trap awaits the sovereign producer once the Fastlane system begins to yield massive returns. It is the confusion between income and wealth. Society is mesmerized by high incomes. People see a CEO making $500,000 a year or an entrepreneur pulling in $100,000 a month, and they assume that person is wealthy. DeMarco shatters this illusion. Income is not wealth, it is simply cash flow. If you make $100,000 a month but spend $99,000 on exotic cars, a massive mortgage, and luxury status symbols to impress people you do not respect, you are not wealthy. You are merely a high-paid slave to your lifestyle. You suffer from lifestyle creep, a disease that guarantees you will never leave the assembly line. True wealth is measured by a single metric: unencumbered net worth and the passive yield it generates. The sovereign mind understands that the ultimate purpose of building a Fastlane business is not to buy a Lamborghini tomorrow. The purpose of the business is to generate massive chunks of capital that can be immediately deployed into a passive money system. 2. The soldier paradigm, weaponizing your capital. To achieve absolute financial sovereignty, you must completely rewrite your neurological association with money. The Slowlane consumer views a dollar bill as a coupon, a ticket to be exchanged for immediate gratification or a consumable good. The sovereign producer views every single dollar as a soldier. When you spend $1 on a luxury you do not need, you are executing one of your own soldiers. You are killing its potential. However, when you deploy that dollar into an investment vehicle, dividend stocks, real estate, treasury bonds, or acquiring other assets, you are sending that soldier into the battlefield to capture territory and take prisoners. The prisoners they bring back are called interest and dividends. This is the ultimate endgame of the Fastlane. Your money goes to work so you do not have to. Your business is the engine that prints the soldiers, but your sovereign treasury is the general that deploys them to fight a war you will eventually win permanently. 3. The atomic habit of wealth defense. Generating massive income requires an aggressive, offensive mindset. However, retaining that wealth requires a ruthless, defensive mindset. This is where we must install James Clear's behavioral architecture to protect the sovereign treasury. You cannot rely on willpower to stop yourself from inflating your lifestyle when massive cash hits your bank account. You must build an automated defense system. The micro-habit of capital routing. You do not wait until the end of the month to see what is left to invest. You build an atomic, frictionless system where the moment capital hits your corporate account, a predetermined percentage, e.g. 60%, is automatically and forcefully routed away from your operational account and locked into your investment portfolio. By making the act of saving and investing invisible and automatic, you remove the temptation of consumption. You are engineering an environment where doing the right thing happens by default, and doing the wrong thing requires exhausting manual effort. 4. The transition from operator to capital allocator. As your Fastlane business matures, your identity must undergo its final evolution. You started as the architect building the system. You then became the operator ensuring the system ran efficiently. The final form of the sovereign mind is the capital allocator. The wealthy do not measure their success by how many hours they work in their business. They measure it by how efficiently they allocate the capital their business produces. Do you reinvest the capital back into your own business to scale it further and command more market share? Do you buy a competitor to eliminate friction and acquire their customer base? Do you deploy the capital into a decentralized portfolio of index funds to guarantee a baseline of untouchable generational security? These are not decisions made on emotion or gut feeling. They are calculated mathematical deployments. The sovereign allocator removes all emotion from money. They do not panic when the market drops. They view the drop as a strategic opportunity to deploy their reserve soldiers at a discount. 5. The FU Fund, the psychology of ultimate leverage. The immediate goal of your capital allocation is not to buy private jets. It is to build what the financial elite quietly refer to as the FU Fund. This is a concentrated pool of liquid capital large enough to cover your baseline living expenses indefinitely. When you possess this fund, a profound neurological shift occurs. The amygdala, the fear center of your brain, shuts down. You no longer operate from a place of scarcity or desperation. You can walk away from any negotiation. You can fire toxic clients. You can refuse terms that violate your sovereignty. This absolute leverage changes your posture, your voice, and your aura. Ironically, when you no longer need the money, people are far more desperate to give it to you. Wealth accelerates when you operate from a position of unshakable indifference. The sovereign treasury is not just a bank account, it is your ultimate psychological armor against the pressures of the world. Part 6 of 10, The Psychology of Risk, Asymmetric Execution and the Failure Protocol. 1. The Illusion of Progress, Motion versus Action. The greatest trap for the aspiring sovereign producer is not laziness, it is the illusion of productivity. James Clear defines this in Atomic Habits as the difference between motion and action. Motion is planning to build a software system. Motion is reading 3 books on marketing. Motion is designing a beautiful logo for a company that does not exist. Motion feels incredibly productive, but it produces absolutely no mathematical result. It is a psychological defense mechanism designed by your brain to protect your ego from the pain of failure. Action, on the other hand, is writing the first line of code. Action is launching the ugly prototype. Action is asking the market for their credit card. The sovereign learner ruthlessly eliminates motion. You do not get paid for your brilliant ideas, you get paid for your violent execution in the real world. If what you are doing today cannot directly result in a sale or a system failure, you are hiding. 2. The Asymmetric Risk Matrix. Society is terrified of risk because society only understands symmetric risk. In the Slowlane, risk is symmetric. You risk 1 hour of your life and the absolute maximum upside is your hourly wage. If you risk starting a traditional brick-and-mortar restaurant, the downside is bankruptcy, and the upside is a marginal 15% profit after 5 years of grueling labor. The architects of the Fastlane operate exclusively in the realm of asymmetric risk. You must engineer scenarios where the downside is strictly capped, but the upside is mathematically infinite. When you build a digital product, write a piece of software, or launch a media campaign, your downside is merely the loss of a few weeks of time and a negligible amount of server costs. The upside, however, is a system that can be scaled to 1 million users and generate generational wealth. You are not gambling, you are placing highly calculated asymmetric bets. You can afford to fail 99 times because the 100th success will pay for all the failures and build an empire. 3. The scientific deconstruction of failure. When a Fastlane system crashes or a product launch yields 0 sales, the Slowlane mind experiences an amygdala hijack. They take it personally. They believe the market is rejecting them. They quit and return to the safety of the corporate paycheck. The sovereign mind completely detaches emotion from the outcome. DeMarco insists that failure is not a reflection of your worth. It is simply market feedback. It is unfiltered, objective data. If nobody buys your product, the market is giving you a data point. Your value proposition is weak or your traffic is unqualified. If customers buy but immediately refund, the market is giving you a data point. Your marketing is writing checks your system cannot cash. You must adopt the mindset of a clinical scientist in a laboratory. The experiment did not fail. It simply proved that this specific combination of chemicals does not create gold. You adjust the formula, update the code, and run the experiment again. 4. The atomic persistence, building the resilience muscle. Persistence is not a genetic trait, it is a neurological habit. You cannot rely on motivation to rebuild a shattered system after a massive failure. Motivation is a chemical spike that disappears the moment you experience pain. This is where the true power of James Clear's architecture comes into play. You must build an atomic habit of resilience. The protocol: when you face a catastrophic business setback, your immediate habit should not be to reflect or analyze. Your immediate habit must be immediate micro-action. If your ad account gets banned, your immediate atomic habit is to spend exactly 15 minutes drafting the appeal or researching alternative platforms. You do not allow the brain to sit in the paralysis of failure. By forcing a micro-action the moment you face defeat, you interrupt the brain's natural panic cycle. You train your nervous system that failure is a trigger for execution, not a trigger for retreat. 5. Emotional stoicism in the chaos of scale. As your system grows, the problems you face will scale with it. A sovereign producer managing a $10 million system faces terrifying daily volatility. Servers will crash, competitors will steal your intellectual property, and algorithms will turn against you. If you allow your internal state to be dictated by the external chaos of your business, you will burn out before you reach the summit. You must cultivate emotional stoicism. The market is a chaotic ocean. You cannot control the waves, but you can control the architecture of your ship. By accepting that extreme volatility is the admission ticket to extreme wealth, you neutralize the fear. You do not hope for an easy path. You engineer a mind capable of navigating the storm with absolute, cold precision. Part 7 of 10, the acceleration protocol, velocity, iteration, and the sovereign feedback loop. 1. The perfectionism paralysis. Why good enough is an empire builder. In the academic system and the corporate slow lane, you are punished for mistakes. This conditions the mind to worship perfectionism. You spend 6 months building a website, a year writing a course, or 2 years perfecting a prototype before showing it to a single customer. The sovereign producer recognizes perfectionism for what it truly is: intellectual cowardice. It is the ego's way of delaying the judgment of the market. DeMarco emphasizes that wealth is generated by execution velocity. The Fastlane protocol dictates that you launch the ugly version. You deploy the minimum viable system, MVS, into the market as violently and rapidly as possible. The market does not care about your flawless code or your beautiful logo. The market only cares if your system solves their immediate pain. Perfection is an illusion. Iteration is reality. 2. The sovereign feedback loop, the rapid iteration engine. Once your imperfect system is live, you enter the most critical phase of wealth creation, the feedback loop. James Clear's Atomic Habits teaches us that habits are formed through a loop of cue, craving, response, and reward. In the fast lane, your business grows through an identical neurological and operational loop. Execute, measure, learn, optimize. When you launch rapidly, the market instantly hands you the exact roadmap to wealth. Customers complain about the checkout process? You just found a friction point. Fix it. Users ignore your secondary feature but obsess over your primary one? You just found your category of one. Double down on it. The sovereign mind does not argue with the market. If the data contradicts your brilliant theory, you kill the theory immediately. The speed at which you can run this loop, launching, gathering data, and upgrading the system, is the exact speed at which you will achieve absolute financial dominance. 3. The aggregation of marginal gains. The mathematics of domination. How do you upgrade a massive system without becoming overwhelmed? You deploy the ultimate weapon from Atomic Habits, the 1% rule. The amateur tries to overhaul their entire business in a weekend, burns out, and accomplishes nothing. The sovereign architect focuses on micro-optimizations. You look at your financial machine and ask, how can I make the website load 1% faster? Asterisk, how can I improve my email open rate by 1%? Asterisk, how can I reduce server costs by 1%? In isolation, these changes seem mathematically insignificant. But when you apply a 1% improvement to 50 different microsystems within your business simultaneously, the compounded result is an explosive, exponential leap in net profit. You do not beat your competition by being 100% better at one thing. You annihilate them by being 1% better at 100 things. 4. Friction engineering, designing the operational environment. James Clear states that if you want to build a good habit, you must make it frictionless. If you want to break a bad habit, you must make it difficult. The sovereign producer applies this exact law of physics to their business operations. You must conduct a ruthless audit of operational drag. Internal friction. If it takes you 5 clicks to access your core database, that is friction. If your team requires 3 meetings to approve a minor decision, that is friction. You must re-engineer your environment. Automate repetitive tasks. Write brutal standard operating procedures, SOPs, that eliminate the need for human thinking in routine operations. External friction. Look at your customer's journey. If it takes them more than 3 seconds to understand your offer, or more than 2 clicks to give you their money, you are losing millions. You must engineer an environment where giving you money is the path of absolute least resistance. 5. The velocity of capital, the reinvestment commandment. Velocity does not only apply to your execution, it applies to your treasury. In the early stages of the fast lane, DeMarco warns against the trap of stagnant capital. When your system begins to generate surplus profit, the amateur leaves it sitting in a checking account or worse, spends it on a liability. The sovereign allocator practices capital velocity. The moment the capital is secured, it is violently shoved back into the system to accelerate growth. You buy better software to automate faster. You hire elite talent to buy back your own time. You aggressively scale your advertising budget to capture a larger percentage of the market. You treat your early profits as rocket fuel. You do not consume the fuel, you burn it to reach escape velocity. Only when the system has reached the stratosphere do you transition from aggressive reinvestment to wealth preservation. Part 8 of 10, The Law of Replacement, Elite Delegation and Buying Back Your Time. 1. The solopreneur ceiling, the ego trap. As your fast lane vehicle accelerates, you will hit a violent threshold. It is the limit of your own biological energy. Society glorifies the hustler, the founder who sleeps 3 hours a night, does their own marketing, writes their own code, and answers customer emails. The sovereign learner recognizes this not as a badge of honor, but as a catastrophic failure of architecture. The ego loves to whisper, "No one can do this as perfectly as I can." This is the solopreneur's ceiling. If you must be present for the system to maintain its quality, you have violated DeMarco's commandment of time. You do not own an empire, you own a high-stress, high-liability job. To scale from $100,000 to $10 million, you must commit to the absolute destruction of your ego. You must actively engineer your own obsolescence. Your ultimate goal is to fire yourself from every operational role within your company. 2. The mathematics of sovereign time. To buy back your life, you must first assign a ruthless, uncompromising value to your time. Assume your ultimate goal is to generate $1 million a year. If you work 2,000 hours a year, your baseline hourly rate must be $500 per hour. Here is the sovereign calculation. If you are spending an hour editing a video, doing basic bookkeeping, or replying to standard customer inquiries, tasks that you could outsource to an assistant for $15 an hour, you are not saving $15. You are losing $485 an hour. You are bleeding capital because you are allocating $500 per hour cognitive machinery to a $15 per hour problem. The wealthy do not spend time to save money, They aggressively spend money to buy back time, because time is the only asset that can be used to engineer new Fastlane systems. 3. Elite delegation versus catastrophic abdication. The amateur burns out, hires someone in a panic, throws a task at them and hopes for the best. When the employee fails, the amateur says, "See, I knew I had to do it myself." This is not delegation, this is abdication. The sovereign architect applies James Clear's philosophy: you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Before you hire anyone, you must build the standard operating procedure, SOP. Asterisk, you record your screen while doing the task. You document every click, every decision tree, and every potential failure point. You create a system so rigid and foolproof that an average person can execute it and achieve a 90% identical result to your own. You are not hiring humans to figure things out. You are hiring humans to execute the algorithmic protocols you have already perfected. You are transferring the genius from your brain into the company's infrastructure. 4. The atomic habit of the time audit. To systematically remove yourself from the machine, you must install an atomic habit of extraction. Asterisk, the weekly protocol. Every Friday afternoon, spend 15 minutes reviewing your calendar and your task list. Ask one brutal question: what did I do this week that a piece of software or a cheaper human could have done? Choose one task and spend the next week building the SOP to outsource it. By executing this micro-habit consistently, you strip away the low-leverage activities week by week. You are slowly migrating from the factory floor to the chairman's seat. You stop working in your business and you exclusively work on your business. 5. Building the sovereign army, mercenaries versus missionaries. As you scale, you will need to acquire human capital. The Slowlane manager hires based on resumes and micromanages based on fear. The sovereign leader hires missionaries, not mercenaries. Mercenaries work for the paycheck. They will execute the SOP, but they will never improve it. Missionaries buy into the overarching vision of your empire. The leadership code. You must define the why of your system so clearly that elite talent wants to attach their reputation to it. You do not manage elite talent by telling them how to do their job. You hand them the objective, provide them with absolute authority, and get out of their way. When you surround yourself with an elite sovereign team, the multiplier effect takes over. Your company begins to innovate, solve problems, and capture market share while you are entirely disconnected from the daily operations. You have finally achieved the holy grail of the Fastlane: absolute passivity paired with infinite scale. Part 9 of 10, The Liquidation Event, Engineering the Sovereign Exit and Generational Wealth. 1. The ultimate multiplier, asset value versus cash flow. In the early stages of the Fastlane, your primary obsession is cash flow. You want the system to generate enough monthly revenue to replace your job and fund your sovereign treasury. However, MJ DeMarco highlights a critical transition that separates the millionaires from the billionaires. The ultimate wealth is not generated by the monthly profits of the machine. It is generated by selling the machine itself. This is called a liquidation event. When you build a system that strictly adheres to the C.E.N.T.S commandments, it is scalable, automated, and detached from your physical time. You have not just built an income stream, you have built an investable asset. Institutional buyers, private equity firms, and larger competitors are not looking to hire you, they are looking to acquire your asset. To achieve absolute financial sovereignty, you must shift your mindset from, how much money can this business make me this month? To, how much is this business worth on the open market today? 2. The mathematics of the exit, mastering EBITDA. To engineer a massive exit, you must understand the language of the financial elite. Businesses are not sold based on emotional attachment or the amount of hard work you put in. They are sold on a strict mathematical formula. EBITDA times market multiple. EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. Simply put, this is the true, operational profit of your system. The multiple, this is the magic number. A buyer might pay 3x, 5x, or even 10x your annual profit to acquire your business. If your automated software company generates $500,000 in profit a year, and the industry multiple is 6x, your asset is worth $3 million. The sovereign architect obsesses over increasing the multiple. How do you increase it? By decreasing the buyer's risk. If the business relies on your personal face and name, the multiple drops to 0. Risk is too high. If the business is run by flawless SOPs, a loyal management team and automated code, the multiple skyrockets. Risk is eliminated. You are engineering an asset that is so structurally sound, a stranger can buy it on Monday, and it will continue to print money on Tuesday without missing a beat. 3. The habit of institutional cleanliness. The most brilliant Fastlane system will completely fail to sell if the internal architecture is chaotic. Buyers will audit your company relentlessly. If your accounting is mixed with your personal expenses, if your legal contracts are non-existent, or if your code is a disorganized mess, the buyer will walk away. Here we deploy James Clear's behavioral engineering. You must build the atomic habit of institutional cleanliness. The protocol: you do not wait until you are ready to sell to clean up. You act as if a private equity firm is auditing you every single month. Make it an unbreakable atomic habit to reconcile your books weekly. Ensure every intellectual property asset is legally trademarked. Maintain pristine documentation of your customer acquisition costs. By treating your startup like a publicly traded corporation from day one, you build an impenetrable armor of legitimacy. When the buyer arrives, they do not see a chaotic solopreneur. They see a sovereign entity ready for acquisition. 4. The day after the millions, defeating this sudden wealth syndrome. The wire transfer hits your bank account. You have sold your system for $10 million. The Slowlane mind, suddenly handed this capital, goes into a consumption frenzy. They buy the yachts, the mansions, and the liabilities, violently returning themselves to the equation of slavery within 5 years. The sovereign mind executes a pre-planned protocol. This is where the capital is permanently transferred into the Sovereign Treasury, as discussed in Part 5. The money is deployed into hypersecure, passive, yield-generating vehicles, broad market index funds, municipal bonds, and commercial real estate. You transition from an entrepreneur to a full-time capital allocator. If your $10 million generates a conservative 5% yield, you are earning $500,000 a year, completely passively for the rest of your life without touching the principal. You have effectively broken the matrix. 5. The generational pivot, architecting the bloodline. Financial sovereignty is not merely about funding your own lifestyle, it is about extending your power across time. The ultimate act of the sovereign mind is architecting generational wealth. However, money without philosophy destroys bloodlines. You do not just pass down the capital, you must pass down the operating system. You must teach the next generation the distinction between the slow lane and the fast lane. You must institutionalize the atomic habits of production over consumption. You establish family trusts with strict bylaws that prevent the capital from being squandered on liabilities, ensuring the treasury is only used to fund new fast lane ventures, elite education, or strategic acquisitions. You are no longer just a wealthy individual, you are the founding patriarch or matriarch of a sovereign dynasty. Part 10 of 10, The Sovereign Manifesto, The Final Laws of Absolute Financial Control. 1. The Ultimate Bifurcation, the Blue Pill or the Empire. We have reached the end of the theoretical architecture. You now stand at the exact point of bifurcation. Society, the educational system, and the corporate world are actively trying to pull you back into the slow lane. They will offer you a slight raise, a new job title, or a comfortable distraction. They will tell you that building a fast lane system is too risky. The sovereign learner knows the absolute truth. The greatest risk in human existence is relying on a single source of income controlled by a stranger. You can choose the blue pill, return to the assembly line, and hope the system takes care of you. Or you can choose the path of the sovereign architect, accepting the brutal responsibility of engineering your own financial escape velocity. There is no middle ground. 2. Writing the control logic of your life. Throughout this masterclass, we have destroyed the consumer identity and built the producer mindset. We established that wealth is not a goal, it is a mathematical output of a highly optimized industrial system. Think of your financial life as a massive, complex industrial plant. The amateur tries to run the entire plant using their own physical muscle, turning valves, carrying materials, exhausting themselves until they collapse. The sovereign producer does not use muscle, they use logic. You are the master engineer. Your job is to write the ultimate control logic for this plant. Every piece of software you integrate, every standard operating procedure, SOP, you draft, every automated workflow you deploy, is a relay in your master control panel. Once you wire the logic perfectly, the machine runs autonomously. It manufactures wealth with cold, relentless precision whether you are in the room or not. 3. The relentless execution of the 1%. Vision without daily execution is just a hallucination. The Fastlane is not a get-rich-quick scheme, it is a get-rich-smart protocol. And the engine of that protocol is James Clear's Atomic Habits. You will not build your empire in a weekend. You will build it in the quiet, unglamorous hours when no one is watching. It is the 60 minutes of deep work every morning before the world wakes up. It is the ruthless elimination of digital distractions. It is the commitment to improving your system by just 1% every single day. The compounding mathematics of that daily discipline will make you unrecognizable in 5 years. You do not need motivation, you need an uncompromising daily system. 4. The Sovereign Manifesto, the unbreakable laws. As you step out of this masterclass and into the arena, you must engrave these 5 absolute laws into your neurobiology. I reject the equation of slavery. I will never again trade my irreplaceable time for a capped financial return. My time is sovereign. I am an architect, not a laborer. I will not work in my business. I will work on my business. I will build systems that outlive my physical effort. I obey the C.E.N.T.S commandments. I will only engineer assets over which I have absolute control, high barriers to entry, undeniable market need, zero correlation to my time, and infinite scale. I welcome the volatility of the market. I will not fear failure. I will view every setback as raw, objective data used to recalibrate my machine. I defend the treasury. I will not consume my capital to impress the masses. I will deploy every dollar as a soldier to conquer new territory and secure my generational freedom. 5. The final directive. The matrix of the Slowlane only has power over you if you consent to its rules. Today you withdraw your consent. You have the blueprint. You have the psychology. You have the mathematics of the 1%. Stop consuming. Start producing. The control room is empty, and the throne is yours for the taking. Welcome to sovereign wealth.